All right, well, good evening, everyone. Just wanted to kind of answer some questions and provide an ability to at least provide some updates here throughout the next, say, 30 minutes or so, and just kind of chat about the chance for severe weather heading our way as we get into Sunday. Very big storm system. And I know for many of you, you've probably seen on social media. If you haven't seen my post, you've probably seen posts all over the place talking about the risk for significant severe weather as we head into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. And that is still on the table. That's really what we are expecting. Just want to give you an idea of what kind of storm system we're dealing with here. And feel free to comment if you've got questions. I'll try to answer as many of those as possible as well, whether you are on YouTube or on Facebook. So appreciate you joining me this evening. Widening out the view, the darker brown that you see here on the map, those are actually high wind warnings. You can see out across parts of, say, South Dakota and North Dakota, where they've got heavy snow, and looks like maybe even a new MD or a mesoscale discussion there for heavy snow up into the Rocky Mountains. And further eastward, we do have, we've got quite a few wind advisories in place. I'll try to toggle on maybe a few more. Let me see here if I can do this real fast. Show on some of the winter updates as well. So you see things like blizzard warnings out across Iowa, and they've got winter storm watches. And so, I mean, yeah, this is a large storm system and a very potent storm system that is going to cross the middle of the country here over the next couple of days. Not, I won't say unusual for March. March is oftentimes that transition month where we are dealing with sometimes some fairly wild weather. Where you've still got winter trying to hold on for dear life. Meanwhile, spring is also starting to make its first appearances. And of course, we felt that here on this Saturday afternoon. So we've got some wind advisories just to the south there, the darker purple you can see across Arkansas, and then even the lighter blue in parts of, say, Memphis, western Tennessee, back into Mississippi. Those are freeze watches and freeze warnings because, well, yes, the threat for severe weather is there, but there is also the expectation that we are going to see some extremely cold weather, especially after we've been dealing with all of the warm weather here recently. All right, so I know one of the big questions is regarding timing, what to exactly expect here in our neck of the woods. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with timing starting first thing Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Things are still very quiet here. It is going to be a very warm spring-like day on Sunday. And I am anticipating the majority of at least the morning and likely through early to mid-afternoon to remain dry here in southern Illinois as well. There is a small chance we could see a couple of showers out ahead of the main line of storms. This is at 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I know that maybe the last couple of days you've heard some folks talk about the risk for storms developing out ahead of the main line. That looks fairly unlikely at this point. Now, the environment is very volatile, so if we were to see a storm develop out ahead of the main line, there would be a fairly significant concern about tornadoes. However, it does appear that the atmosphere is going to be what we call capped, meaning there's some warmer air aloft in the atmosphere that helps suppress storms. So we do not anticipate at this point much in the way of storms out ahead of the main line. The main event for us here in southern Illinois is likely going to be the big line of storms. 3 o'clock, this is kind of knocking on our doorstep. One of the big changes here over the last 24 hours is that we've seen this line of storms speed up just a bit. So my post yesterday, for example, had this coming through anywhere from about 6 p.m. to, say, midnight. Right now, I think that the timing is going to be much faster than that. So that is some good news because the concern was that we were going to end up dealing with this after the sun goes down. Right now, I am anticipating that much of southern Illinois, if not all of southern Illinois, is really dealing with this throughout at least the early evening hours, all right? So before sunset here as we head into Sunday evening. So this is 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. And again, these times are kind of loose, but I think they're within an hour or so. So especially anywhere from about 4 to 5 p.m., we will start seeing this approach the Mississippi River. Places like Sparta, places like Chester, southward there along the line, Perryville, but I would even say over towards, say, Ava, Campbell Hill, and then into western sections of Perry County. This may be into your area as early as 4 to 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. This is 5 o'clock here. Notice it is hitting Pinckneyville at that time. It is hitting Murfreesboro and the bottoms, Ava, Campbell Hill. So this continues to push eastward. It's also approaching areas like Mount Vernon and Woodlawn and Waltonville and DuQuoin and say Cesar and Christopher and Carbondale and Murfreesboro. So again, the timing, again, this is fairly loose, but we're thinking for these areas, likely anywhere from, I'm going to say 5 to 7, but it's probably going to be closer to 5 to 6 o'clock when we start seeing this line of storms approach those areas of southwest Illinois. So this is west of I-57. Let me see real quick here if I can turn on some of those highways, because I know that that's what a lot of us use here. I had them turned off, but let's go ahead and turn those on. That might give you a little better idea, throw some roads in there. But western sections of southern Illinois, so west of I-57, we'll say anywhere from 4 to 6, but really it's probably 5 to 6 when this arrives into your area. This line of storms then continues to push eastward pretty quickly. So by 6 to 7 o'clock, this is starting to cross I-57. This is the time here at 6 p.m. This is Marion and West Frankfort and Johnston City and approaching McLeansboro and crossing over I-57, say towards Dongola, and then this will continue eastward. So again, very fast moving line of storms. I'm going to back up here just a minute so you can kind of see everything developing. This is 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Notice how much stronger that line of storms gets as it crosses into southern Illinois. That's because we've got more moisture coming up from the south, and the instability is going to be a little higher in southern Illinois. So we do anticipate that as this line of storms then especially crosses over I-57 and I-24, that's when we really anticipate the threat for severe weather to ramp up. I think everybody could see strong storms on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, but there is a slightly higher chance of seeing severe weather east of I-57 and east of I-24. So that's 7 o'clock, and notice this is by 8, 9 o'clock. By 8 to 9 o'clock, the severe storms are out of southern Illinois, okay? So again, time period here, we have moved this up, and we're really thinking that this is likely going to be somewhere between, say, 4 p.m. in Redbud and Sparta and Chester, 4 to 5 p.m., and then eastward, Carmi, Shawneetown, Harrisburg, Rosiclare, Elizabethtown. It's going to be more like anywhere from 7 to 8 and possibly as late as 9. But it is likely going to be in that time period. There are some showers behind this, but again, the main threat is going to be right here on this line of storms, okay? That is going to be the main threat. Once this line of storms goes through, this is a very, very sharp cold front, and then behind it, well, the severe weather threat is going to quickly go down, and the colder air filters in extremely fast. Yeah, look at that. That's just to our east. Look at the switch over behind that to snow, and I think it's possible that early Monday morning we could even see a few snowflakes falling here as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and break down. So that's the timing of what to expect. Let's talk about what the Storm Prediction Center has, what we're expecting right now, and I do trust the Storm Prediction Center a lot. But let's go ahead and widen out the view right now. So this is kind of the wider look. Everybody's still under a level 3. I think it's possible that we could see an upgrade to a level 4 across far southeastern Illinois, and possibly areas just to the south. But right now, I understand why they kept it a level 3. I actually agree with keeping it at a level 3 right now. We'll talk about some uncertainties that are still in the forecast here in just a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and then zoom this in a little tighter so you can kind of see that everybody in southern Illinois is in a level 3 on a scale of 1 to 5. All right, so we call that an enhanced risk, but I just like to use the numbers instead. So a level 3 for everybody in southern Illinois. So let's go ahead and break down maybe some higher threats that are embedded in there. This is what the Storm Prediction Center has, okay? So the pinkish color that you see here on the map, this is the wind outlook. Notice much of southern Illinois, what I would consider anywhere from Mount Vernon to Marion, Harrisburg, southward, Metropolis is in there, Paducah, is under a very high threat for high winds, okay? And this is damaging winds. That is going to be the biggest threat throughout this entire thing, okay? It's going to be the threat for strong, straight-line winds. I think it's possible that we see widespread 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds. And I think it's possible that we see some isolated gusts that might top 70 and possibly even 75 miles per hour. That's the type of wind shear we're dealing with. It is somewhat rare that for us to see this amount of wind shear. It's really off the charts for us. So that's the big concern here is that very strong straight line winds. And I know that everybody likes to use the word tornado and everybody likes to get scared of tornadoes, but we're not so much, we're going to talk about the tornado threat here in a second. I think there is a chance we're dealing with tornadoes tomorrow as well. But I really think that as far as the widespread threat goes, that the wind damage threat is going to be the main threat with a secondary threat of potentially a few tornadoes. All right. Let's look at the tornado threat as well. So the Storm Prediction Center puts the highest risk in far southeastern Illinois, areas of Kentucky. There's a little bit more moisture there, a little more instability there. That's why that risk is a little higher in far southeastern Illinois and into parts of central Kentucky. However, still, a medium risk is fair enough. And what we're expecting here is with this line of storms that comes through, let me go back to that. What we're expecting is when this line of storms goes through the area, that it primarily will be producing strong straight line winds, some damaging winds. However, inside of this line of storms, there could potentially be, let me see, there we go. This is 6 p.m. Notice kind of how that line is. It's not just one solid straight line. All right, there are some little jagged edges in there. So there's going to be some little eddies, and we could see the possibility of maybe a brief spin-up tornado. Oftentimes with these types of setups, we don't see real long tracks tornadoes, but we do tend to see brief spin-up tornadoes. And with the amount of wind shear in the atmosphere, that means we could still see, typically when we're talking about brief spin-up tornadoes along the line, we're talking about EF0, EF1 tornadoes. I think with this type of shear and this type of setup, it is not entirely out of question that we could see a tornado possibly pushing EF2 or even higher. I can't rule that out, but again, overall, the biggest threat here, strong straight line winds, but a secondary threat of a few tornadoes embedded in this line as well. So that's kind of what we're expecting at this point. Kind of looking through the list here. And again, enhanced risk, and I almost went up to a moderate risk here with the wind damage just because I think the threat is extremely high for that. The hail threat, we haven't talked about that because the hail threat overall is very low with this storm system that's moving through. So not concerned with hail. The tornado threat, I would say kind of low to medium right now across our area. I would honestly probably put it in the medium category because I do anticipate we might see a few warnings and possibly a few brief spin-up tornadoes. And the other thing here is that we're probably not going to see much in the way of flooding. This line of storms, it just books it through here. So yes, there might be some real heavy rainfall embedded in the line of storms, but we are expecting it to move through fast enough where we're not dealing with a lot of flooding or anything along those lines. So again, here's kind of what to expect. Line of severe storms, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's giving me a little bit of wiggle room on the front end and a little wiggle room on the back end. But that's kind of the main time period. Significant wind damage definitely possible. And then we're going to talk about also here in a second, the really sharp temperature drop expected with this one. All right, let me try to answer a few questions here. I see them that they are up. JD asking about the upgrade to a moderate risk. It's possible. If the Storm Prediction Center feels confident enough, I think it's possible that we could see an upgrade. Right now, it would not be surprising to me if they left it at a level 3, but we'll see what they end up doing with the overnight update. Megan asked about what time the storms will be out of here. Again, I think at the latest, especially, it kind of depends on what town you're in, but at the latest across southern Illinois, I'm hoping to give the all clear by between 8 and 9 o'clock tomorrow evening at the latest. Okay, so that's when I think the threat will be out of southern Illinois. All right, Mitch asking about 70-mile-per-hour winds. I don't think that 70-mile-per-hour winds, we're not going to see 70-mile-per-hour winds from Mount Vernon to Cairo. But there could be some embedded pockets in there where we might see it over a pretty large area of maybe a county-wide or something along those lines. I think that's possible. So pinpointing exactly where that's going to occur is pretty difficult at this point until the storms actually get here. But that's what we're expecting with the amount of shear that's available. Kim asking about, are you safe in a double wide? With this type of wind, I would say that you probably should have a plan in place tomorrow evening. And if you live in a mobile home or a trailer or a double wide, even a manufactured homes, things like that, you may want to have a plan in place that maybe a friend or a family member that you can go take shelter with. When we're starting to talk about straight line winds that might be pushing over 70 miles per hour, possibly up to 80 miles per hour, the threat to those types of structures becomes much, much higher than just the standard 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Amanda, going to be close to 80 miles an hour. Amanda, again, it's real difficult to pinpoint exactly where that's going to be. But yeah, there is a chance we could see some gusts pushing pretty close to that. Marianne, so the main threat for Southern Illinois is for sure the wind threat. I don't want to completely downplay the tornado threat. I think it's there. I think that there is a chance we could see a few tornadoes. But yes, the biggest threat and what we think is going to be the most significant threat at this point is likely the wind damage. Nathan asking about Johnston City. Let me go right back to the timing, because I knew that going into this, that was going to be the biggest question, is the timing on this line. So again, I'll start this over here real quick. 4 p.m., 5, 6. So if you're in Johnston City, Nathan, that puts it anywhere from about 5 to 6 o'clock for you, is what I would be expecting. Yeah, Joe, I don't exactly know what mile per hour wind Marion's going to see yet. Just can't tell that until the storms get here, and we'll know a little bit more as far as who's going to see what. Everybody in Southern Illinois could see strong winds tomorrow. Again, but that is kind of they're going to be scattered. It's not going to be, I don't think that we are going to see everybody from Mount Vernon to Cairo see wind damage. Okay, that's just not going to happen. It doesn't happen very often. This is I know that I've had some questions asking about the May 8th, 2009 derecho. This is a much different setup than that. This is more of a squall line, what we would call, but it's a squall line with just extreme amounts of wind and extreme amounts of wind shear available to it. So I do not anticipate widespread everybody getting damage from Mount Vernon to Cairo. However, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds on the lower end with this line, and probably some gust again pushing 70 or more. Going back, Debbie, I'm answering your question about Murfreesboro. Again, timing for Murfreesboro, probably closer to 5 if I had to guess. I would say 4 to 5, but probably closer to 4 to 5. Kind of the same thing with everybody else. Again, talking anywhere from 60 to 70 mile per hour winds possible. It's kind of embedded in this line with a few tornadoes as well. What kind of damage can you see with the winds at 80 miles per hour? It's a good question there, Miranda. When you start talking 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, that's when you start talking about potentially roofs ripped off of things. You start seeing more structural damage than just 60 mile per hour winds. 60 mile per hour winds can cause some damage. That's kind of the criteria for issuing a severe thunderstorm warning. We often see trees and power lines down. When you start getting over 70, you start really seeing more in the way of structural damage to buildings. Some roofs ripped off, pole barns kind of gone, kind of removed, poles removed out of the ground, pole barns kind of flipped over, those types of things. That's what we start talking about. Of course, in Austin, you also see trees down and power lines down. So I do anticipate we could see quite a few power outages as this line moves through tomorrow evening. Yes, Alexis. Yeah, I think that we probably will. If everything kind of comes together, I think it's definitely a chance that we could see strong winds that do produce quite a few power outages. Hey, Brian, good to see you, bud. Yes, Jackie, I do plan on being live during the storm and tracking this as it makes its way across all of Southern Illinois Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Yes, that is the plan. All right, well, I had a few more things I'm going to run through here. And if you've got questions, again, go ahead and push them and put them in the comments there. I'll try to answer as many as I can. For Dahlgren, yeah, I would say it's probably going to be more of the 6 to 7 range for you, Marlene. Probably going to be more 6 to 7 in Dahlgren. Michelle asking, any chance it'll hit Franklin County earlier? The timing on this has been really, the last, say, 24 hours come into focus, and pretty much everything's in agreement on this timing. So I would say Franklin County, 5 to 7 p.m. is kind of the main time period for you. Is pretty much what I'm expecting. Karen asking about Mount Vernon is kind of similar to that. 5 to 7 is kind of what I'm expecting for you as well. All right. Let's see here. One of the other concerns we talked about, maybe some snow flurries on the backside of this. Check this out, guys. All right, so these are low temperatures. These are morning temperatures, right? All right, so we're talking about 55 degrees Sunday morning, 25 degrees on Monday morning, and then Tuesday morning down in the teens. And my big concern is that we see. I can slide that off of here. I got one wrong thing. Do this. All right, so what we often see is when we've got trees like they are right now outside, they're budding, grass coming up, mowed my grass today for the first time this season. My concern is that, well, we see freezes and frost and things like that. Right now, everything is running extremely early. Trees are in full bloom in some areas and running extremely early. My concern is that we're not talking about temperatures Tuesday morning down at 28, 29, or even down to 25. We're talking about temperatures Tuesday morning at 15, 16 degrees. That is going to hard freeze a lot. So I am concerned even for native plants here in the area. That we could see some damage to some of those because, again, everything is running so early right now. I've got a magnolia tree, for example, here at the house that the last, 2-3 years, the flowers have gotten knocked out on it pretty much with a freeze or a frost late in the season pretty much each year. This one, right now, they're in full bloom, and I'm expecting pretty much all of them to be brown by they say Tuesday or Wednesday. So I am concerned about some of that. Especially here again, even looking at orchards and all of the folks that might be trying to grow things. There's just a lot of people maybe have got some spring fever, but we are just going to see this is just a really big shock to the system. These are the high temperatures. For Sunday, we're close to 70. Monday, these are high temperatures again. Monday afternoon, struggling to get above freezing. That is a huge cold front. And it is very short-lived. We only dropped down there for about 2 days. But look at that. By Thursday, we're right back to about 70 degrees. So it is quite a temperature swing. But again, Tuesday morning, Monday, and then Tuesday morning, both of those I do have some concern about. Larry asking about, that's a good question. Larry asking about, do I think that the storms ahead of the squall line will be bad? I think that the storms ahead of the squall line, the chance of seeing that has gone down. At this point, I think the chance of seeing those storms out ahead of the main line is fairly low. There's a fair amount of warm air aloft in the atmosphere, which acts as a cap. If you think of a cap, the best explanation I can give it is kind of like a soda bottle. If you got a Pepsi bottle, you shake it up, and you've got that cap on top of it, well, all the energy is stuck inside of there. We can feel the pressure on it. But now if you take that cap off, everything goes up. That cap is kind of same here in the atmosphere. You get some warm air aloft, and it keeps the air from going up anymore. And it looks like we'll have a fairly stout cap out ahead of this line that should help keep storms hopefully at bay until we get to the main cold front. That's what we're hoping for. Again, there are some ingredients there that if storms were to form out ahead of it, that they could be severe. But right now, it looks like that's a pretty low chance. All right, I'm going to switch gears here and show you a few things as well. This is going to be a little bit more sciencey, kind of a little more in depth for those that you kind of like that. And one of the reasons you might ask, well, why are you talking about this, and what makes this so significant? There's that line of storms we're talking about. Notice as it kind of goes eastward here into southern Illinois. Boom, right there. That's where we see. It's fairly strong there, gaining strength, and boom, right when it gets into southeastern Illinois, boy, it really, really starts to get going. One of the reasons for that is when we are measuring instability in the atmosphere, one of the things we look at is dew points, how much moisture is in the atmosphere. And dew points really surge. Typically, we would be wanting dew points in the lower 60s for severe weather. The wind shear is so extreme, I think we're going to be able to overcome some of that. I will tell you that the dew point numbers have gone down just a bit. So this is a measure of instability here. Instability numbers are actually fairly low. But again, it just, with this type of, let me show you what we're talking about with shear, because I'm sure many of you are asking about that. So this is a crazy colorful map. The big thing that you need to know is here is bright, or the dark red and the brown. Those are winds that are pushing anywhere from upwards of 60, 70, 80 miles per hour aloft. Now, this is higher up into the atmosphere. It's about 5,000, 7,000 feet up in the atmosphere. But that wind is roaring off the surface. So with that, and then combined with its just meager amounts of instability, that's what leads us to believe that there is a significant chance for wind damage tomorrow. When I look at some of the tornado ingredients, again, I think that there is a chance that we could see a couple of tornadoes with this. They kind of start to go up right over southern Illinois, and it kind of falls off. However, so here, can't look at a couple other. There we go. So kind of goes right up here. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we measure for the tornado risk, what they call significant tornado parameter. Again, there are some other things that go along with this. This is just one product that we use. This model has the instability numbers similar, so less than 500. When we're talking about instability, you'd really like to see a little bit more than that. So that is one caveat to tomorrow. Instability numbers are low, but shear is off the charts. We think that we're going to overcome the lack of instability due to the amount of shear in the area. So that's kind of one caveat there. I still think that there is some uncertainty regarding how all this plays out. But again, we've seen this several times here in our area where it just does not take much this time of year of instability when you've got a very volatile atmosphere and that much wind shear aloft. All right, try to answer a few more questions as well. Go back over to the timing, because I know that, again, that's the biggest question here. What about Harrisburg, Carrier Mills? Again, pinpointing exactly who's going to see severe weather is pretty impossible until the storms actually form tomorrow. We think that overall that the threat is there here in southern Illinois. Doesn't matter where you are. We continue to see that the line kind of increases in its strength as it moves eastward into southeastern Illinois, and that's one of the reasons that when you go back over here to the wind outlook, that's one of the reasons that the Storm Prediction Center has put us in a very high risk there on the southeastern, in particular across southeastern Illinois, but stretching all the way to Carbondale and Benton and West Frankfort, Marion, Harrisburg. Everybody's in that. So again, and the threat is there just not only for that we're going to see some some wind damage, but again, some fairly significant wind is possible. All right. Here we're pushing close to 30 minutes here. I'm going to go just for a little bit longer. You've got just a couple more questions. Jim asking, rate the storm on a 1 to 10. That's a good question. I'd probably say a 6 or 7 at this point, and I would say that some other significant events would be more like when you start talking 9s and 10s, that would be like last May when we had the Marion tornado. This is a much different scenario than that. This is a line of storms versus supercells. Okay, so this is more, again, straight line winds with a squall line and a few embedded tornadoes in between, maybe some short-lived, brief spin-up tornadoes, and not the big supercells that we've seen that we saw again last year, say for the Marion tornado. Yes, Christy, the very cold temperatures are still in play for Tuesday morning. Yes, if your water pipes and everything else survived earlier this year, we're talking about January when it was really bitterly cold for a long period of time. If they survive that, they're not going to have any issues on Tuesday morning. The good news is that we have been as warm as we have been for that perspective. And that the cold spell is only going to last for a couple of days. We warm up pretty quickly beyond that. Mary asking, what time do I plan to go live tomorrow? We're going to have to see how all the storms play out. I will try to go live as the line of storms is approaching us. I will go live before it gets into southern Illinois. If that's 4 o'clock, then we will start going live at 4 o'clock. If that's closer to 5 o'clock, it'll be closer to 5 o'clock. But I will be keeping an eye on that in particular. And we will try. I will be live as soon as we can be. Steve asked about the drive for his son going back to Mississippi, leaving around 10 a.m. I think that as long as you are, see here, doing this out just a bit, very slowly apparently. Looking to the south here, as long as, if you're leaving at 10 a.m., as long as you are south, Memphis to about 3 hours. So that gets you there about 1 to Memphis, and then getting a little bit further south to northern Mississippi, maybe another hour and a half or so, if I'm guessing. Yeah, you should be all right. Should be fine. It's going to be a really windy drive heading into that. It's going to be a strong headwind. But other than that, I think that they will beat the storms. That's the other story here. Tomorrow, out ahead of the storms, don't be surprised if we see strong straight line winds, and really, again, outside of the storms. This is going to be from the south, winds out ahead of the line. I will not be surprised if we end up with 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Again, once we get some of that wind above us really roaring, I won't be surprised to see some of that get pushed down here to the ground level. So even some isolated power outages, maybe a few branches, or maybe even something along those lines, a rotten tree coming down, or I think it's possible starting maybe it's about mid-morning through the early afternoon, out ahead of the line. So that is a possibility. Lucas, what do you think the chances of embedded tornadoes? I think, again, we're likely going to see some of those tomorrow. Brief spin-up tornadoes. Again, I've showed this just a few minutes ago. This was the Storm Prediction Center's tornado outlook for tomorrow. Medium risk for much of us, slightly higher risk south and eastern Illinois, closer to the Ohio River, and then points into Kentucky. Draw lines on a map. I don't say, hey, if you're right on this line, oh man, I'm in the medium risk versus the highest risk. Look, guys, we can't pinpoint exactly where the tornadoes could occur inside this line, but we just think that there's a chance that we could see a few embedded tornadoes in addition to the significant wind. All right. Well, guys, I am going to wrap up for tonight. But again, I will continue to have updates through we'll probably have a couple updates tonight, at least one. I will wait for the next Storm Prediction Center update, which will come through closer to maybe midnight or 1 a.m. Try to set an alarm to catch that. And then let me answer this one. Lisa, could this possibly weaken? There's still, I would say that the one biggest question, if we always look for things that are, when we're tracking strong storms like this, we ask, okay, what's the thing that could be the fail, right? Like what could be the thing that blows this entire thing up and makes it a no-go, and all that. The lack of instability is one thing that continues in my head to say, hey, that's one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on. But it's been consistent enough. There's so much wind shear out here. I just really think that the chance of seeing this completely go away, and this chance of severe weather completely go away, is low at this point. So we do anticipate quite a bit of severe weather with this line as it moves through. This is the line. Then the main line is it. So again, once it goes through, I'll time this out before I head out. 4 p.m., 5 p.m. So we've pushed the timing up in and out of here by 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm hoping that we can completely say the all clear through here. But again, this is the main event. I'm not anticipating many, if any, storms to develop out ahead of the line at this point. I think that the main line is going to be the big event for us here in Southern Illinois. All right, guys. Well, again, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Well, I'll tell you what, I got a new system here I'm using at home, so I will run through that one more time for you guys. I'm sorry, I didn't even hit the button I was supposed to hit. All right, so there you go. 6, here we go, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. Go back one more time. 3, 4, 5 p.m. Sunday, 6 p.m. That's right on 57. 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. it's getting close to the Ohio River and then getting eastward. All right, so then it's out of here. So it's a short window. 4 p.m. to say about 9 p.m. is when we're expecting this to be moving through. All right, so I am going to wrap up again. We'll have some updates here tonight, and we'll continue to have updates as well throughout the day tomorrow. I am anticipating to go live and be tracking the storms as they are making their way through southern Illinois tomorrow afternoon. So that is something I am anticipating to do. In the meantime, I don't like to say, hey, you need to prepare for this. I don't think that as far as severe weather, there's a lot that we can do other than, having a way to receive warnings. And additionally, knowing what you need to do if in case there is severe weather. Where would you go? If you live in a mobile home or if you live in a trailer, you need to really be paying attention to those rules. And when there's a watch issued, maybe going someplace. We know all this stuff, guys. We live in an area that is very prone to severe weather. So, we should be kind of used to it. This should be kind of part of it. We just know, hey, if this happens, if the sirens are going off and my phone's going off and telling me that there's a warning, I know where to go. So again, that's kind of the biggest preparedness speech I can give you. But in the meantime, get some rest. I know many of you do have some storm anxiety and things like that. Not somebody that's going to tell you, hey, you need to be panicked about this. That's not how we get through, and that's not how we deal with severe weather. So if you can, try to get some sleep tonight. We'll all get through this tomorrow as well. And then dealing with the cold weather on Monday and Tuesday. But in the meantime,